Hello, people, and welcome to the Be Smart About Art show. Slight technical challenge happening temporarily here that I'm just going to fix. There we go. Nothing that we can't solve, hopefully. Well, I hope this message finds people interested in what's happening in the art world this week. I've got 3 pieces of news for you, and they're quite fun. And I've just realized something that I desperately need to do in order to make sense of today's show. And that is to take a recording. So everyone, we have been saying the entire time we've been running this show that this is an excellent way to watch what we're doing, to learn as well. And this today is a great example of that. So let me just press the record button for us. There we go, recording to the clown, so that our digital marketing maven Anna can actually pick up the recording. Right, so everyone, good afternoon, welcome to the art world this week. And today I have for you 3 pieces of news that I am going to be reading to you in a very particular order. Before I do that, I want to say to everyone what a joy it's been to be running this show for the past 6 weeks already. It's hard to believe that we've already been doing this for that long. And in that short span of time, we really have been working out what people are responding to, what people are needing right now. And so we've changed the format this week. We are now running the show Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at the same time each week. We are going to be doing that for half an hour per segment. So it's increased. So we're going a little bit more depth on each show, going from 20 minutes to 30 minutes. We are developing some really ace interaction. The Tuesday quiz, I just cannot wait to do, basically. And today, what you'll see is the continuation of the art world this week. Tomorrow is Be Smart About Art question time. You can send in your questions when we're live. You can do that via the Facebook page live video. And then on Wednesdays, we'll be addressing stories. We'll be telling stories, in fact. And so the time that this is always going to be taking place is the exact same time we're live today, which is 4 o'clock where I'm based in the UK. And if you head over to North America, that is 8 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast. That's 10 o'clock in the morning Central Time Zone, which is where I'm from. It's 11 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast. And then head over to Central European Time Zone, and you're looking at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So there we are. Right, let's look at the art world this week. I'm going to read out what the headlines are, and then I'll go into depth on those pieces of information for you. First one is coronavirus bonkers response to toilet roll art challenge. I mean, that's crazy. So that comes out of the BBC. I'm afraid, folks, that is a story from the UK when it comes to toilet paper. The second one, comes from ArtNet News, and we do find a lot of really brilliant news stories coming out of ArtNet News, so be sure to keep up to date with what they are reporting. And that is, want to learn art history? Here are 9 absolutely classic TV series that will give you a solid education and keep you on the edge of your seat. So thinking about what's happening in the art world this week, why not turn back in history and have a look at what you can learn from decades gone by? That's what I say. I think that's a great idea. And then last but not least, we're going to be looking into a webinar that's taking place tomorrow. That is Tuesday, the 5th of April. And that is going to be that's going to be between Melanie Gerlis, an art journalist who, in this case, she's with the FT, the Financial Times, and this is being hosted by the Financial Times, this particular webinar, and she will be in discussion with the Frieze New York director, because Frieze New York, the art fair, would have taken place this week, which is just crazy because it's not happening. So they're talking about the shift to online art fairs. Let's get started then with that first piece of news. I'm sorry, everyone, there's something strange happening with the screen today. What I am going to do is go ahead and change my backdrop to see if that might be of help. I've never actually seen the screen do this kind of funky thing that it's doing at the moment. So perhaps a bit more of a gentle background will improve the lighting. There might be something twitchy going on potentially with the stream from Zoom to Facebook or something else. I'm just going to adjust things a bit. This is sometimes what happens when you're live streaming. Things are coming up that we don't normally see happening. because there's so much demand on platforms. It may not be what it was, might have just been that I simply was too close to the screen. So that's also quite useful to see. Any questions, any thoughts throughout, feel free to comment. And if you're watching the replay of this, go ahead and send in some comments as well. Right, so let's listen to this coronavirus bonkers response to toilet roll art challenge story. So this says, a gallery owner who challenged people to create art out of toilet roll tubes during the coronavirus lockdown, which we're still in at the time of recording. So the response has been quote unquote bonkers. That sounds like a lot of fun. Sarah Whitley from Clay next to the sea in Norfolk launched the project on social media. So the artist's name is Sarah Whitley, Whittley, if you want to look her up, with scores of people taking part from as far away as the USA. Now, I consider the USA to be next door in the art world, in the sense of the art world, but hey ho. She had been looking for easy things to make when she spotted the loo rolls, this goes on to say. The challenge had, quote unquote, touched people. It led to the production of some heartwarming creation, she said. Miss Whitley, who has run Pinkfoot Gallery, so look up Pinkfoot Gallery, for 15 years and lives on site, so kind of live on the gallery site situation. I've known multiple people to do that. I think it works really well. There's actually a chocolatier in Lewis and East Sussex, where I live, who they live next door to the little chocolate shop where I got some emergency Easter chocolates a few weeks ago. So she adds that underlying health issues, in her case, that is, meant that she had to close the business ahead of the lockdown. I mean, that sounds sensible anyway, considering what we now know in retrospect. Hindsight's an amazing thing. I set the challenge because I'm a doer, and being told I can't leave the house is so frustrating, she said. And okay, to everyone watching this, either live or in replay format, isn't it fascinating that we've seen such different responses to the lockdown? Some people have just come out of the woodwork. Some people have retreated. You just don't know what's lying underneath the surface. We do need to respect. And I'm really saying that because she's saying, oh, I'm a doer and therefore blah, blah. You know, it's not always easy for everyone. It's awesome she's done this. Not everyone's going to be able to do that. And I honor that. If you haven't got paper, you can use cardboard. I thought I could make it as accessible as possible with things you can find around the house, like a biro and loo roll. Everyone has something to express, especially with emotions at such a peak. And so she's talking about the peak of coronavirus in the UK. At least at this stage, it looks like we're going to be going into potentially a bit of an easing, maybe in June, and we'll see what happens after that. Miss Whitley said she and her colleague Emma Denham had spent hours replying to everyone who had posted photographs for the, okay, here we go. Write down this hashtag or make a note. Hashtag Pinkfoot Loo Roll Challenge. Or for those fellow compatriot American watchers out there, loo, I'm sure you know, is LOO for toilet. So Pinkfoot Loo Roll Challenge, all one word, across Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. So that's an interesting point. If you're going to run something, maybe limiting it to a particular social media platform at first, at least seeing what the response is. And if you're completely overwhelmed, you just keep it to that one. And then if you think we could do some more responses, then you open up, maybe something like that, and be really careful about which one you start with. I'm just thinking it sounds like they've been quite overwhelmed. And now this is in the BBC. So, I mean, that's quite an astonishing response, really. I didn't actually say this piece was from 16th of April as well. We didn't expect it to go quite so bonkers, said Miss Whitley before adding that they had been surprised by the variety of designs ranging from a crumpled tube face to a 3D wildlife scene and intricate bird paintings. Now, I'm just going to show you some images that I've got here. Now, that's printed out double-sided on my recycled paper in black and white. But what you can see, I mean, that's just amazing what people are doing. That's really astonishing. And if you look really closely, you can actually see some of the material, some of the toilet roll coming in where those Heinz beans images are. So that's really impressive illustration. Professional artists have taken up the challenge alongside those wanting to pass the time with Miss Whitley saying her not normally arty mother contributed an entry because she thought I'd be upset if no one responded. That's very sweet. The challenge will run for the duration of the lockdown, with Miss Whitley hoping to put on an exhibition to thank contributors when her gallery reopened. And we're just about to the end of that story. That is wonderful. You've absolutely got to look up her gallery. So again, that's the Pinkfoot Gallery. The hashtag is hashtag Pinkfoot Loo Roll Challenge. We're still in lockdown, so you can, for anyone viewers watching from other countries, that rule will apply for the UK being in lockdown. So as long as the UK is in lockdown, you can enter the competition. And I love this. She says, I think every single one is incredible. I didn't expect the standard to be that high and inventive. It's almost a social record. If we can get everyone creating, we'd love that. So that's really, really fun. That's just great. So why not do a bit of that? I'm interested to see what people who are watching live do say as well. Let me know if you had come across that, or if any particular ideas strike you for the Loo Roll Challenge. Have a look at the hashtag while we're watching as well, maybe to get some inspiration and some ideas. I'd really love to see your take on it. And I am looking at the Facebook comments kind of once every couple of minutes or so. Right, moving on then, I want to give you this list of 9 TV series to help give you a solid education. Now, some of these you'll know, and some of these you won't know. Depending on where in the world you're based, you may or may not be able to access all of it, but I'm sure you can find a fair bit of the content on YouTube, because let's face it, that's the way of the world these days. So this piece is by ArtNet News, and it was published on the 29th of April, so just a few days ago. And I'm going to read you these 9 different headlines. So as in names of these programs. Ways of Seeing, that one is from 1972. The total time to watch is 2 hours. And indeed, you should be able to find some of that on YouTube by the looks of things. And why you should watch it: of all the achievements of Ways of Seeing, the writer John Berger's hugely influential BBC series from 1972, perhaps what's most impressive is that it still feels remarkably relevant nearly 5 decades later. The tropes upended in the late critic and novelist essayistic trips through the canon are still being grappled with in galleries, museums, and in publications like this one today. So I guess, long story short, it's still really current. It's really relevant still, which is fantastic. Then looking from 2001, Sister Wendy's American Collection. So I'm going to give people some visuals here. I always think it's just fun to go a bit old school. So that was the previous one. That was the Ways of Seeing. And then there we go, Sister Wendy. That is Sister Wendy, everyone. So what is Sister Wendy's American Collection all about, after all? So the total watch time on this one is 6 hours. And you can see it in the States on PBS, and if you are not in the US, then have a look to see if you can find it elsewhere. Now this says why you should watch. In the 1990s, the South African nun Sister Wendy became a breakout star on the BBC for her awe-filled visits to art museums around the world. The Roman Catholic nun mused with infectious delight about everything from Michelangelo's Pieta to David Hockney's portrait of his male lover by a pool. Art only works if it comes from love, she said of the painting. That's just beautiful. That's fantastic. So she basically was a big hit in the art scene throughout the 90s, and then did the show in the early noughties. So have a look at that. And then we've got Raiders of the Lost Art, which is obviously a play. Raiders of the Lost Ark. So Raiders of the Lost Art, that aired from 2014 to 2016. The total watch time is 8 hours and 45 minutes. Good for some binge watching there. And you can watch that one on Amazon Prime. This one says, don't let the kitschy name turn you away. This fast-paced series tells the fascinating stories behind artworks which have disappeared through thievery, oversight, and other mysterious circumstances. Ooh, that sounds fun. From vanishing Vermeers to global hunts for Fabergé eggs, the episodes are filled with a shocking number of experts and art historical details, while the narrator's dramatic intonation and suspenseful score lend it an air of guilty pleasure watching. I think that one sounds brilliant, if you don't say me. Oh, and we've got somebody that's so amazing. Thank you very much, Debs. That's Deborah Henry Pollard, who's a one-to-one advisor supporting the Be Smart About Art community creatives, is kindly sharing those links on as we're going live. So big thumbs up. Thank you very, very much, Debs. And that shows when we talk about community, when we talk about participating, connecting, and growing, which is what our motto is with our community. That's a brilliant example. So hurrah, thank you. Next is Fake or Fortune 2011 to 2019. Brilliant. I know the show reasonably well. So the watch time is 31 hours. I know the art dealer. This says why you should watch. Oh, and this is on BBC One. And if you can't find it there, you can also find it on Amazon Prime. Why you should watch each episode of this BBC series, co-presented by the journalist Fiona Bruce. Wonderful. And the art historian Philip Mould, he is an art dealer as well. He's got a gallery in London, investigates the authenticity of a work of art. The show dives into nitty-gritty of provenance, forensic, and material analysis and style to determine the answer to the titular question, is it a fake or will it be worth a fortune? So again, fake or fortune, and there's Philip, as you can see, alongside Fiona. And there was Raiders of the Lost Art as well. You can see that's fun. So those are both really good examples of some shows you can watch that are just going to be really good fun. And you probably learn a bit as well. Next up is Hidden Hands, A Different History of Modernism. This one ran from 1995 to 1996. And there we can see a little printout. And that is the author Frances Stoner Saunders. So total time to watch on this one's 4 hours. You can find it on YouTube. And the journalist, Ben Davis, says, why you should watch. I found this series while researching the references in the art of Agnes Pelton just before her show at the Whitney shuttered due to the lockdown. Frances Stoner Saunders, author of The Cultural Cold War, that's another good reference, Cultural Cold War, is the force behind the show, and each of its 4 episodes focuses on one overlooked aspect of modern art. Cold War politics in episode 1, modern ideas of hygiene and health in episode 2, that seems pretty timely, and collaboration with the Nazis during the French occupation in episode 3. Now, one of the things that I'll add to that is something that I have personally been finding very interesting just as a human being living through this era. And I'm sure many, many viewers are going to resonate, or this will resonate with many viewers, that I'm kind of wanting to watch things in which people are somewhat understanding of this kind of time. Now, that's not exactly that because this is a show from before, but what they're touching upon are some topics that are relevant. So on Friday evening, for example, I went hunting around YouTube and Instagram, finding various musicians who had been streaming live during the lockdown. And it was really great to know that they were there caring and feeling for us. So there's something to be said for that. So that makes me think a current show as well that's airing, not a previous one, is going to be Grayson Perry and the club that he set up. So be sure to check out Grayson Perry's art club as well. Next on our list, we're looking at this trove of ArtNet news recommendations by the journalists there. We've got Civilization from 1969. That would be quite fun. Look at that terrific image of this man in a suit. Quite of its time. There we are. So it's a total of 11 hours available on YouTube, so accessible to really anyone. Kenneth Clark's distinguished career as a scholar, museum director, and popularizer of complex ideas finds its most distilled expression in this 13-part BBC series about what he calls civilization, which is different from civilization per se. In this case, it's his feelings and observations that count, and instead of an objective history, we get Clark's personal view, as the opening titles of the first episode admit. So I think that is really excellent. That sounds really fun. Now we've got The Power of Art from 2006, which you can see at the bottom there. Okay, and now total time to watch is 8 hours. That is available again on YouTube. So a lot of this is very accessible no matter where you're based. Why you should watch, says Elaine Kinsella. Hello, Elaine. This now famous trek through art history with eminent author and historian Simon Schama is equal parts entertaining and enlightening. And that's really great because we do need things that are going to be engaging us as well. It's the reason why we're introducing a quiz to our Tuesday episode of the Be Smart About Art show. You just need, I think it's really important that we're doing things that are informative, perhaps, but also not always informative, but they can be. But they need to somehow engage you and interest you as well. And that's what this does. Shama takes viewers through 8 seminal artworks and the fascinating lives of the artists. And that's really interesting that each episode takes you through basically information about the artist, the work of art itself. I'm sure it's going to have the story of the relevant series, what was happening at the time to give you some context. So that lists Caravaggio, Bernini, Rembrandt, David, Turner, Van Gogh, Picasso, and Rothko. Of course, I don't think are any women in there, and that's a real shame. So maybe that show is only partially worth watching. What you might want to do is watch that and make an effort to then go onto social media and say, hey, here are some things about these women artists that are YouTube videos or something, just as a way to kind of balance that. Right, then we've got Shock of the Nude from 2020. It's total of 2 hours on YouTube. And it says, look, nothing will endear an art history series to me quicker than seeing a warning that it's age restricted based on YouTube's community guidelines. And that goes on to then say, Mary Beard's Shock of the Nude checks all of these boxes. Beard, one of the world's foremost classicists, and indeed she's written some really interesting books and essays. Uses, is it Oxford? I think she is. Not 100% sure about that. I think that's right. Uses the show to interrogate the primacy of the nude figure in Western art through the centuries. And by the way, if I'm wrong, if she's at Cambridge or something, apologies to all of you people at Cambridge, Oxford, etc., for getting that wrong. You never want to get that one wrong, apparently. I say as an American in the UK. And then this goes on. No one else could so cogently tease out the form's aesthetic importance while simultaneously asking a question I've considered in many museums more times than I should admit. Despite its merits, is this artwork here largely because we'd like to look at hot naked people under the guise of higher learning? And I must say, thank you, Tim Schneider, the art critic from ArtNet, who has suggested this one. Shock of the Nude from 2020, Mary Beard is wonderful. She is indeed all about equality. So that's a nice counterpoint to the previous show that I had mentioned. So maybe they kind of balance out. One's modern and one was from the late 60s in a different era, thankfully. Then we have, last yet certainly not least, The Joy of Painting, 1983 to 94. And I imagine many of you will recognize that image. Yes, my friends, that would be Bob Ross. Excellent. So with Bob, and I can see that there are some really, I can see in the comments, lots of links being shared here. The Joy of Painting. So 201.5 hours. If you want to binge watch, this is the one to watch if you want to take up a load of your time. And the good news is that it is indeed available on YouTube. And this says, okay. Sarah Cascone, who I've mentioned before, who I know, she says, okay, it's not art history, but it's Bob Ross. And I do quite agree with her. A treasure of public television, Ross makes painting look effortless. And for people in the UK, would you let me know if you know Bob Ross? Because this might be my American background coming in. I mean, I absolutely know who this person is, but do the Brits of Be Smart About Arts community know who Bob Ross is? He makes painting look effortless, scraping his palette knife across canvases to create the happy little trees that inhabit his kitschy masterpieces. He narrates the entire process in dulcet tones, his glorious permed afro bobbing back and forth as he deftly transforms indistinct blotches of color into recognizable landscapes through the magic of wet on wet oil painting. And this audience will really recognize that as well as being such a skill to then make it look easy and effortless. The technique was developed by Ross's predecessor, German painter Bill Alexander, who showed, and I love seeing credits like this, who show the magic of oil painting, aired on PBS, that's Public Broadcasting Service in the US, from 1974 to 1982. And this does add, and this is interesting, I want you to think about how this can apply to the things that you do as well. Despite the fact that its last episode was filmed more than 25 years ago, The Joy of Painting has retained a loyal fan base. So what can you do to really get that fan base, to get people who are going to be really engaged, to support you, to get behind you on what you do and to keep on loving it in years to come as well? And I'm just seeing that Yes, the Brits do know Bob Ross. Excellent. Thank you very much for confirming that. There will sometimes be a personality, or there will be a phrase or a word, and I'll suddenly go, does that actually translate to the UK? Just like sometimes people will say something to me and I have no idea what they're talking about. Now, last yet certainly not least, and this is an action point for people to take who are watching the show either live or in the next kind of 24 hours, because the action is registering for this, what looks to be, we'll see how it goes, what looks to be a fabulous dialogue between journalist Melanie Gurlis, who I know. She's a really excellent journalist, does a lot with the Financial Times. This is a collaboration between the FT Weekend and Freeze New York. And so she will be discussing, and she's really great. And actually, what I'm now seeing is that it's hosted by Melanie, and then it's Jan Daly who is giving the introduction. And they're going to be in conversation with Loring Randolph, director of Freeze New York, and Gareth Greenan, the founder of the Gareth Greenan Gallery. So that is going to be taking place tomorrow, the 5th of May. And I'll give you all of the time zones. I'll start from the West Coast of the States. I will then give the East Coast. I'm going to slip in Central because that's where I'm from, and I know lots of people are there. And then I'll include the UK and Central European time zone. So it's 9:30 Pacific. That's 11:30 in the morning, that is, Central, 12:30 in the afternoon, so kind of lunchtime for the East Coast, 5:30 in the afternoon in the UK, and 6:30 in the evening for Central European time zone. To register for that, go to, I presume it's https:// and then, so the S meaning it's a secure site, and then you've got go, as in geo.commercial.ft.com. So it's go.commercial.ft.com / the hyphen shift hyphen to hyphen online hyphen art hyphen fairs. So essentially add a hyphen between each word after the first word and ending with the last word. So it's the shift to online art fairs, which if anyone could read my writing on the screen, there we go. There's the link. So that looks really interesting to me. And you can translate. I know that people think of Freeze Art Fair as being the absolutely top echelon. It's true. Talking to the FT, and what can we learn from them? I was only talking with some members of Lewis Women in Business. It's a local community to me here in Lewis and East Sussex in England. And one of them was talking about how, our local kind of annual art festival where there are lots of open artist studios, usually takes place in August. That's now shifted to take place in September. If memory serves me right, 5th to 29th September, although that sounds a bit too long. And I was saying, we don't know actually if that's going to be able to happen or not. And I recommended that the person who runs that festival to go watch this webinar, because that is talking about the shift of art fairs online. And I actually think that you'll be able to take away a lot. Let's think about what we can plan now that can take place online. And then if we end up finding at some point that maybe there's a vaccine sooner, then sure, we can do things in person as well. But at the moment, in order to be planning something for the coming months, how about we get ready to do online to prepare for that? And that's actually going to be more relevant in the years to come regardless. And the reason for that is that this whole era of time is getting a lot of people online who weren't previously. We're seeing much more engagement in online art auctions. I heard a great report from one Boston auction that actually did better with an online version of an auction than their typical face-to-face auction. So it's really, really interesting. It's going to be relevant, whatever we do. So go check that out and register. I, for one, will be in attendance. And I'm just checking out the final links that we've got here in the chat box. Excellent, fun. It's great to see everybody engaging there. Well, everyone, I'm going to bring today's The Art World this week on the Be Smart About Art show to a close. I'm looking forward to bringing you other pieces of breaking news next Monday, as I will do for the foreseeable future. Another example of doing things online for the foreseeable future as we know it, and really looking forward to it. I really always enjoy people's involvement as well in these conversations. So do feel free to comment if you're watching live and you haven't yet said that you would like to receive notifications whenever we go live. Please choose that option in the comments box. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So my recommendation for you is to just pop into your calendar whatever you use for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of each week at the same time, which is 4 o'clock in the UK. You can always convert that to your own time zone, or 11 o'clock on the East Coast in the States, for example. Just block it out for the foreseeable future, because we will always be here for that half hour. And for those of you who are part of the BSAA members community or who are interested, we're now going to be doing an end of the week Friday at 12 o'clock East Coast, 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the UK, wrap up to the week. And that's going to be the BSAA members community gathering. And I know we're kicking off taking objects that are close to us and showing them to talk about those and why they're so meaningful. And also talking about what we're binge watching or what we recommend for people. So if you haven't yet checked out our community, go to patreon.com/Be Smart About Art and join. It's $7.50 a month, and you can come and you can go whenever you want. And I will add to that although that is what enables us to run this program, for those of you who cannot invest that money at the moment, that's absolutely fine. Keep on enjoying the shows, and when you're able, we'll look forward to welcoming you to that community. And there's plenty that we're putting onto patreon.com, and do check out our website, besmartaboutart.com, as well. It's been lovely to have you as ever. I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon on the show. And until that time, I am going to bid you adieu, wishing you well in everything that you do, and do register for the webinar and check out some of those programs. Ciao for now, signing out from Lewis in East Sussex. Until next time.